Okay, we're live on YouTube. You can start now, Shamsun Peru. Otherwise, I'll take your turn.
Sounds okay.
Yeah, try it. I'm not sure how it'll sound in a full sentence.
How about now?
Better. Good. Go for it.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Om Vishnupad Purnamamsa Paripurajaka Ashto Turasati Srimad A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shiva Sadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Sri Sri Radha Krishna Gopinath Sham Kund Radha Kund Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Vrindavan Tham Ki Jai Navadip Tham Ki Jai Jagannath Puri Ki Jai Ganga Mai Ki Jai Jamuna Mai Ki Jai Tulsi Devi Ki Jai Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Gaur.
Welcome, everybody, to Caitanya Caritamrita, His Holiness Jayādvaita Swami. It is Thursday, July 31st, 2025. Today we're starting with Adi-lila 1523. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Ramaj, would you like to read, or shall I?
I can. Kotadina Rohi Mishra Gela Paraloka Mata Putra Duhar Parila Priti Shok. After some days, Jagannath Mishra passed away from this world to the transcendental world, and both mother and son were very much grieved in their hearts. Bandhu Bandhava Vashi Duha Prabodhilo Pitra Kriya Vidhi Mate Ishar Korilo. Friends and relatives came there to pacify Lord Chaitanya and his mother. Then Lord Chaitanya, even though he was the Supreme Personality of the Godhead, executed the rituals for his dead father according to the Vedic system. Kotadine Prabhu Chitte Korila Chinton Grahasta Hailama Ebe Chahi Graha Dharma. After some days, the Lord thought, I did not take sannyas, and since I'm remaining at home, it is my duty to act as a grahastha. Grihini bina griha dharma na hoy shubhan eto chinti bibaha kurite oilo man. Without a wife, Lord Chaitanya considered, there's no meaning to householder life. Thus the Lord decided to marry. Na griham ityahur grihini grihamuchate tayahi shahita sarvan purushartan samashnute. Merely a house is not a home, for it's a wife who gives a home its meaning. One lives at home with his wife. Together they can fulfill all the interests of human life. Daibe ekadin prabhu pariya asite balabacharyer kanya teke ganga pate. One day when the Lord was coming back from school, he accidentally saw the daughter of Balabhacharya on the way to the Ganges. Purba Shidho Bhava Duhar Udoy Korilo Doive Vanamali Gatak Shachistane Ailo. When the Lord and Lakshmi Devi met, their relationship awakened, having already been settled, and coincidentally, the marriage maker, Vanamali, came to see Shachimata. Purport: Vanamali Ghatak, a resident of Navadvip and a Brahmin by caste, arranged the marriage of the Lord to Lakshmi Devi. He was formerly Vishwamitra, who negotiated the marriage of Lord Ramchandra, and later he was the Brahmin who negotiated the marriage of Lord Krishna with Rukmini. That same Brahmana acted as the marriage maker of the Lord in Caitanya-lila. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Shaminiti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirbhishesha Shunyavadi Paschata Deshatarane. So this is a social need. At a suitable age, a boy and girl should marry, and that's the responsibility of the parents to get their sons and daughters married. So it's something of a, often, perhaps usually something of a challenge to match up a suitable boy and girl. And so there was a marriage maker, in this case, Banamali Katak, to help in such affairs. In various communities, in the Jewish community, these matchmakers are there, I assume in many other communities, because this is one of the duties in the course of human life. Shachir ingite sambanta korilo gatan Lakshmi ke bibaha koilo Shachir nandan. Following the indications of Shachi Devi, Banamali Ghatak arranged the marriage, and thus, in due course, the Lord married Lakshmi Devi. Bistariya Vanila Taha Vrindavana Das Eta Adi-lila Shutra Prakash. Vrindavan Das Thakur has elaborately described all these pastimes of the Lord's early age. What I have given is but a condensed presentation of the same pastimes. Poganda Bayase Lila Bahuta Prakar Vrindavan Dasha Iha Koriyachen Vishtar. The Lord performed many varieties of pastimes in his early age, and Srila Vrindavan Das Thakur has described them elaborately. Oteva Jinmatra Iha Tekaila Chaitanya Mangale Sarva Loke Kyata Hoilo. I have given but a single hint of these pastimes. For Vrindavan Das Thakur, in his book Chaitanya Mangal, now Chaitanya Bhagavat, has described them all vividly. Sri Rupa Raghunatha Pade Jar Asha Chaitanya Charitamrita Gohe Krishna Dasa. Praying at the lotus feet of Sri Rupa and Sri Raghunath, always desiring their mercy, I, Krishnadas, narrate Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, following in their footsteps. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports to Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Adi-lila, 15th chapter, describing the Lord's Poganda Lila. So again here, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami tells us that I'm only describing these things briefly because Sri Vrindavan Das Thakur has described them elaborately. That's the mood of a Vaishnava author. He doesn't want to try to surpass the previous authors. He doesn't want to make a name for himself. He respects the previous authorities, so there's no need to repeat what's already been described in detail. So he says, I'm just touching upon it, just to fill in the timeline. For the details, you go to Chaitanya Bhagavat, to Vrindavan Das Thakur, and I'll speak later about the pastimes that Vrindavan Das Thakur hasn't discussed. Someone else like to read a little bit?
Anjatafa Prabhu. Now we're on chapter 16.
Yeah.
And you can read the summary in the
Okay.
beginning and text 1. And as well as however long you want to read, but we can just read text 1 after.
Okay. Chapter 16. The pastimes of the Lord in his childhood and youth. This chapter fully describes Lord Chaitanya's Kaishora Lila, or the activities he performed just before attaining youth. During this time, he studied deeply and was victorious over greatly learned scholars. During his Kaishora Lila, the Lord also sported in the water. He went to East Bengal to secure financial assistance, cultivate knowledge, and introduce the Sankirtan movement. And there he met Tapan Mishra, whom he instructed about spiritual advancement and ordered to go to Varanasi. While Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was touring East Bengal, his wife Lakshmi Devi was bitten by a serpent, or by the serpent of separation, and thus she left this world. When the Lord returned home, he saw that his mother was overwhelmed with grief because of Lakshmi Devi's death. Therefore, at her request, he later married his second wife, Vishnupriya Devi. This chapter also describes the Lord's argument with Keshava Kashmiri, the celebrated scholar, and the Lord's criticism of his prayer glorifying Mother Ganges. In this prayer, the Lord found 5 kinds of literary ornaments and 5 kinds of literary faults, thus defeating the Pandit. Later, the Kashmiri Pandit, who was known to have been victorious all over the country, submitted himself to the goddess of learning, and by her order, he met Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu on the morning of the next day and surrendered unto him. Text 1. Kripa Sudha Saridjasya Vishram Aplavayantyapi Nitya Gaiva Sudha Bhati Tam Chaitanya Prabhum Bhaje. Translation. I worship Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, whose nectarian mercy flows like a great river, inundating the entire universe. Just as a river flows downstream, Lord Chaitanya especially extends himself to the fallen. Purport. Narottam Das Thakur has sung, Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Dhoya Koramore. He prays for Lord Chaitanya's mercy because he is the mercy incarnation, having appeared especially to reclaim the fallen souls. The more fallen one is, the greater one's claim to the favor of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. One must only be very sincere and serious. Despite being contaminated by all the bad qualities of this Kali Yuga, if one surrenders unto the lotus feet of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the Lord will surely and certainly deliver him. The best example is Jagai and Madhai. In this age of Kali, practically everyone is like Jagai and Madhai, but the Sankirtan movement inaugurated by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is still flowing like a great river, inundating the entire world, and thus the International Society for Krishna Consciousness is successfully claiming all fallen souls to free them from contamination. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Guru Das Jayādvaita Swaminiti Namine. Kripa Sudha Saridjasya Vishram Aplavayantyapi. Kripa Sudha, of the nectar of the mercy. A river, the nectar of the mercy, a river. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's nectarian mercy flows like a great river. It's a beautiful verse. Rivers, as we know, flow downstream. They follow the force of gravity, and that takes them to the lower and lower place. They don't flow up. They don't flow sideways. They flow down the stream to the lower place. So in this beautiful metaphor or simile, the Lord's mercy is described here as flowing to those who are most fallen, with a qualification. They have to be very sincere and serious in taking shelter of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Srila Prabhupada brought that mercy to the Western world in such an extraordinary flow. He spread that river all over the world, and somehow, by his mercy, he brought persons who otherwise had no even inkling of the purpose or meaning of life, or even that they were fallen. Maybe some had some idea, but just by his association and instruction, by his association, seeing the example of his own beautiful self, they were able to understand, and by instruction, their actual position, and they became serious and sincere. This is the wonderful quality of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu's Sankirtan movement, that it spreads through the persons who've received that mercy and through his special emissaries, and that river continues to flow. Thus, the International Society for Krishna Consciousness is successfully claiming all fallen souls to free them from contamination. Hare Krishna. Guru Maharaj, would you like to say something?
No.
Prabhu, you're welcome to continue, but I don't want to strain your voice. Should we pass it off to Radesha Prabhu, or what do you think?
I think we should pass it off to Radesha Prabhu just so that we can hear from him.
Yeah, that as well.
I'm driving right now. That's the only problem. Otherwise, I would be so.
I could read one or two more. Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jayādvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. All glories to Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. All glories to Lord Nityananda. All glories to Advaita Chandra. And all glories to all the devotees of the Lord. Jyat Kaishora Chaitanya Murtimatya Grihasramat Lakshmiyarchito Tavag Devya Disham Jaya Jayat Shalat. Long live Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in his Kaishora age. Both the goddess of fortune and the goddess of learning worshipped him. The goddess of learning, Saraswati, worshipped him in his victory over the scholar who had conquered all over the world, and the goddess of fortune, Lakshmi Devi, worshipped him at home. Since he is therefore the husband or lord of both goddesses, I offer my obeisances unto him. Eto Kaishora Lilar Sutra Anubhanda Shishyagan Padahite Korila Arambha. At the age of 11, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu began to teach students. This marks the beginning of his Kaishora age. Shata Shata Shishya Sange Sada Adyapan Vyakya Shuni Sarvaloker Chamakitaman. As soon as the Lord became a teacher, many, many students came to him, every one of them astonished to hear his mode of explanation. Sarva Shastri Sarva Pandit Paya Parajaya Vinaya Bangite Karo Dhuka Nahi Hai. The Lord defeated all kinds of scholars in discourses about all the scriptures, yet because of his gentle behavior, none of them were unhappy. Any comments, Gurudev?
A couple things. One, I found it notable that Lord Chaitanya became a teacher at the age of 11.
Yeah.
I suspect that this was not extraordinary, that young men would teach. These days, we think unless you're 60, you don't have enough experience to know how to do anything. But, or some people think that way. But here we found Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He's 11 years old. He's teaching. So we learn, we teach. It doesn't have to be 20, 30, 40, 60 before one can teach either about Krishna consciousness or any other topic in which one is expert. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did that. He was very expert in argumentation. Prabhupada explained one time in New York that he could Chaitanya Mahaprabhu could establish a premise in such a way that no one could defeat it. And then he could defeat it in such a way that no one could establish it. And then again, he would establish it in such a way that no one could defeat it. So that was his scholastic power. Also, we'll find it in the narration concerning Keshav Kashmir, how Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, despite defeating his opponents, was so gentle in his speech, so cultured, so gentle, that no one was unhappy with him. Hare Krishna.
Radesha Prabhu, are you available now?
No, I'm not in the best. I'm better at listening right now. If
Okay.
that's all right. Sorry.
Yes. Sham Sindhu Prabhu.
All right. Text 7. Vividhan chitta anudatya kare shishya gana sange janavite jalakale kare nana range. The Lord, as a teacher, performed various kinds of pranks in his sporting pastimes in the water of the Ganges. Kata dine kaila prabhu bangete gamana yahan yaya tahan lao yaya nama sankirtana. After some days, the Lord went to East Bengal, and wherever he went, he introduced the Sankirtan movement. Purport. Although Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his devotees in disciplic succession can defeat all kinds of learned scholars, scientists, and philosophers in arguments, thus establishing the supremacy of the personality of Godhead, their main business as preachers is to introduce Sankirtan everywhere. Simply to defeat scholars and philosophers is not the occupation of a preacher. Preachers must simultaneously introduce the Sankirtan movement, for that is the mission of the Chaitanya cult. Yeah, I always hear when it comes to books, book distribution, it's like there are people who will waste time, but it's like the point isn't to establish how much we know or how smart we are and get in this like prideful, I know more than you and I'm going to prove it thing. It's really just to give what Prabhupada's given, the books, the message, the holy name, prasadam, something that people can connect to Krishna immediately to as many people as possible. And it's actually quite nice. It doesn't matter how much knowledge we acquire. We're not trying to show it off. We're actually just trying to touch people, get people in touch with Krishna and focus on that. And it's kind of nice that it kind of brings that back into focus. Preachers must, even though we can defeat all scholars, scientists, and philosophers in arguments, that's not our main business. It's just to introduce Sankirtan. And actually, there's something I heard regarding chanting also. I think the article is called something, it's like Kirtan is not a performance, where even to the extent of Kirtan, Prabhupada was very keen on making sure that it's used particularly in a way where it's accessible, making things accessible and reaching as many people as possible. Maharaj, maybe you could probably elaborate more on it, but I had read that there was some Indian village where the devotees were chanting, but they were doing it in a way where it wasn't, the villagers weren't able to follow it. I guess the melody was too complex. And Prabhupada stopped them and then introduced the chanting half of it, just the Hare Krishna part, in a simpler melody until the villagers picked it up. Then he introduced the other half, and then the whole thing, doing it specifically in a way where everyone could participate versus it being so flavorful that they couldn't chant alongside the devotees. Hare Krishna.
I remember that story. that's how the villagers were accustomed to chant. So Prabhupada has us follow the same pattern. Yes, the point is to make the chanting accessible, not to make it a performance, but to bring people to Krishna consciousness. The point of is not just to have discussions where we defeat people and show our stuff. The real accomplishment is to bring someone to the lotus feet of Krishna.
Maharaj, I actually heard something really sweet from Hari Chakra Prabhu from Gita Nagari on this point too, where he's extremely well versed in the Christian scripture. I believe in the Muslim scripture and in ours. And when he was younger in Krishna consciousness, he was like very fired up about defeating other people. And he said he had gotten chastised by Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj because he said, look, I went on this internet radio station, and I had this discussion with this, I guess, person, and I smashed them. He said, you fool, that's not the point. The point is to bring them to Krishna, and now you probably scared them away. And I thought it was like so powerful because I'm listening, I'm like, wow, so impressive. You can speak so well. And then hearing that, it's like, oh, I missed the point completely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that is the point. How to bring someone closer to Krishna. And Praveen says the East Bengal, where Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went, is in Bangladesh. Back then, there was no East Bengal, West Bengal. It was all Bengal. Now it's been divided since the time of the British, but it was one country. And that's where he first met Tapan Mishra. And Radhesha has...
There's something from Murari Gupta Prabhu that we missed.
Oh, sorry. Can you elaborate on how one can be very fallen? Can you elaborate on how one can be very fallen, but simultaneously sincere and serious? It seems it's a certain type of fallen that allows a person to take up Krishna consciousness. There's that verse in 11th canto. I don't have the Sanskrit down, but essentially it says that even if one is not able to follow the regular principles or the standard behavior of a devotee, still one should stick to it, even it says very happily, and be thinking that at some time, not thinking in sometime in the future, but desiring, let me come to the standard, not the one that's just complacent, that one goes on. All right, I may be fallen, but let me do some service. Not that one thinks I'm too fallen, and then he goes away. Prabhupada said that's another kind of sense gratification. We may be fallen. We can't follow the 4 rules, or we can't chant 16 rounds a day, or something happens this way, that way. But still, he wants to go on serving Krishna. Here's the verse. Yes. Jata Shraddho Matkatasu Nirvinna Sarvakarmasu Veda Dukatmakan Kaman Parityage Pyanishara Tato Pajeta Mam Prita Shraddhalur Dridha Nishchaya Tushamanas Chatan Kaman Dukho Darkams Chagar Hayan. Having awakened faith in the narrations of my glories, being disgusted with all material activities, knowing that all sense gratification leads to misery, but still being unable to renounce all sense enjoyment, my devotee should remain happy and worship me with great faith and conviction. even though he's sometimes engaged in sense enjoyment. My devotee knows that all sense gratification leads to a miserable result, and he sincerely repents such activities. Yes, he doesn't make excuses. No, I'm following a different standard. No, he knows I'm fallen. I'm just too absorbed in gratifying my senses. Still, I'm determined to serve Krishna somehow or other. And he regrets that material engagement. He's disgusted with material activities. Somehow or other, he can't give them up. Still, he's determined that he has faith, Shraddhalu. He has faith in the process. Therefore, he remains determined. Somehow or I have to stick to this. So that's a good qualification.
Okay. Radesha Prabhu.
Excuse me, just for saying, from that position, he can improve.
Yeah.
If one makes excuses, this is very good. It's just, invents some justification for material sense enjoyment as a way of life. That's his misfortune. But a person who's humble and regrets, I can't, somehow I'm so wretched, I can't follow properly. But still I have to engage in Krishna consciousness. That person is a very good candidate.
Guru Maharaj, I have a question about acquiring knowledge. I was listening to a class you gave a couple of days ago about the difference between spiritual and material knowledge. And sometimes it feels to me as though even spiritual knowledge is material knowledge. You've made the point before that an academic scholar may have astounding knowledge of the Bhagavad Gita or even Srimad Bhagavatam, but because they're not practicing anything, that knowledge doesn't account for much. And I just wanted some clarification there because it feels like just the act of acquiring that knowledge would be so purifying. The verse in Gita says how purifying that knowledge is. And so I'm just curious how it is that an academic scholar isn't purified by such knowledge in the context of hearing, about Mahaprabhu being astoundingly well-versed and people were so impressed with his learning. But in his case, obviously, it's transcendental. Or even in Mahaprabhu's case, so many of the devotees were saying, oh, you're so learned, but you're not applying it to bhakti. So I'm just curious if you have any thoughts on these points.
Yeah, this is simply to be a master of the subject doesn't make one a master of the subject. Just like someone may be very learned in Christian history or this or that, but if he's not following Jesus, what is his position as, what has he understood? What has he understood? So, or in any great religious teacher, spiritual teacher, if we just take it, or Krishna consciousness movement, there's so many who've studied, the Hare Krishna movement as a topic for sociology of religion. So studying that way, one may have a great understanding of the social dynamics involved. But unless one becomes attracted to Krishna, what is the use of that? What is the use of that? Still, some good fortune may be there. He associates with devotees. Maybe he becomes somewhat attracted. And that's the good fortune. It is a good fortune. We hear these days, there are quite a number of scholars. They're just attracted to Chaitanya Vaishnavism as a topic of study. As we were hearing the other day, that there's some good fortune for the Sahajiyas, that, all right, they're Sahajiyas, but they chant the holy name somehow or other. So it's like a future hope for them. So for scholars also, somehow they're attracted. They could have been attracted to anything, but they're attracted to Krishna consciousness, studying the Krishna consciousness movement, or yes, philosophy. So it's a future hope for them that they'll be able to make further progress. But actually, to understand these things, Ado Guru Padashraya, one has to take shelter of bona fide spiritual master and take the thing up in a submissive way. Tad Vigyanartam Saguru Meva Bhigasched. To get Vigyan, realized knowledge, one has to take up the process. Otherwise, it's superficial. The Kirtaniyas are there, they're chanting, it's wonderful. But if they're not taking up the process, it won't be so effective for them. Yes. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much.
Okay, we have a few things in the chat.
And Sham Sindhu has raised his hand.
Oh, and a hand, Sham Sindhu Prabhu. Please.
Should I wait for the chat since
No.
I came in live?
No.
Oh, appreciate you. Maharaj, in the introduction to the Gita, there's that statement Prabhupada says where even by theoretically accepting Krishna as God, one can begin to understand the Gita. And I met a really nice devotee where that was exactly what he did. He was like, you know what, I don't know if I believe all this, but I'll just treat it like a sci-fi and enter into it and just accept it until the end of the book. And now he's like a very nice, fixed up, initiated devotee. So I wonder, even before the stage of getting a guru, what is it that these academics and other people who study, but don't really they don't, I suppose, become practicing devotees? Is it just that they don't take that initial leap of faith of at least?
Not even a leap of faith, but it's a question of process. The academic is going to, tackle the subject through the usual empiric methods and understand something. But he's not going to get the same realization, the same benefit, the same access that even a person who is not convinced or not really following, but who's taken the position that, all right, let me provisionally accept this. What is that? Amanit from? That's the beginning of knowledge, is to be humble. Person comes to the class, he says, I don't really know, how much there is in this, but anyway, I'll hear it out. It may be anything, trigonometry or Welsh poetry or what have you. But he thinks, all right, let me hear what it's about. That's also faith. One time Prabhupada translated faith as interest, Shraddha, as interest. He has some initial interest, and he knows he's heard that I'm not really going to get this just by hearing with a challenging attitude. And at the same time, I don't think I accept all this. But anyway, as a method, as a suitable approach, let me provisionally accept some of these things, because that will help me understand them. If I go on challenging, I won't understand anything. So, all right. And it's very nice how Prabhupada does it. It's not that you just go on provisional and that's your life. That's sufficient. But it's a good way to get started. Then, all right, let me provisionally accept that Krishna is speaking as Bhagavan, as the personality of Godhead, and see where that leads. It's a little bit, I had I was had an exhibition of typesetting equipment, and there was a man who he needed, or it would have been good for us to have a waxing machine back in those days. The typeset pages were affixed to the pages that we used to lay out the book itself. They were affixed by rubber cement, which was awkward and attracted dust and was hard to work with. And the real way to do it would have been with a machine that affixes a kind of wax to the back of the paper that it makes it easy to attach and reattach if you want. So there was one leading company, everybody bought their machine. And I met someone from another company who said that his was better and it was the same price. And I said, well, I don't know, and this and that. And he said, well, just take it with you and try it out. And if you don't like it, you can send it back. And well, you can't really argue with that. So I took it, and it was a great machine. It actually outdid the competition, and it was a great purchase. But you know, that was sort of what he had to do to get me on board, was to say, all right, just try it out. So and I still had all my options open. I could try it out and reject it. I could try it out and keep it. It was entirely up to me. So we give that option, or Prabhupada gives that option to the reader, that you don't have to take a leap of faith. You don't have to surrender to Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead from the first page of the book. Just give it your patient hearing and provisionally accept that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, because you won't be able to understand the book unless you understand it, that Krishna is speaking from that position. If we accept Krishna as an ordinary man, then Bhagavad Gita has no meaning. Why should I even close it now? It's just another man's opinion. So if I want to actually understand Bhagavad Gita, I have to at least provisionally accept that Krishna is speaking as the personality of Godhead. So that's just, again, different from, no, you have to take a leap of faith. No, just give your, and that verse is there, Prabhupada quotes it often, from, what is it, Prabodhananda Saraswati, that if you're actually serious about logic and so on, then just give your attention to the teachings of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. That's all. So if one is serious about the meaning of life, if one is serious about solving the problems of material existence, if one is serious about trying to understand who he is, what life is for, then take up this approach, as Prabhupada says, Panchatattva Prabhu's posted it. So according to the statements of Bhagavad Gita, or the statements of Arjuna, the person who's trying to understand the Bhagavad Gita, we should at least theoretically accept Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And with that submissive spirit, we can understand the Bhagavad Gita. Unless one reads the Bhagavad Gita in a submissive spirit, it's very difficult to understand Bhagavad Gita, because it's a great mystery. So that's it. Approach with a submissive spirit. We may be very entangled in material existence. We may have great learning or great wealth or this or that. But if we approach in a submissive spirit, then we can begin to understand the Bhagavad Gita. Aman, in fact, Prabhupada said, humility is the beginning of knowledge. And if we don't approach in that spirit, if we're arrogant or confident that we're on top of everything, then we won't understand it. So so thank you for bringing this up. It's very nice. Point made by Srila Prabhupada.
We have a number of things in the chat. Shamsindu Prabhu just on this point says, wow, nice. Try before you buy. The process works. So all they have to do is be open-minded enough to at least run the experiment for themselves, then see how they feel.
Yes. There's a question from Saraswati before that.
Yes. Yes. Pranams Param Puja Maharaj and all the Vaishnavas. Jiva Goswami went to debate and defeated a well-known scholar, Rupa Narayan. When his uncles, Sanatan and Rupa Goswamis, didn't want to debate, so why did the senior uncles not want to join the debate?
Rupa Goswami thought, Sanatan Goswami, why should we waste time with this guy? He's not serious. He just wants to collect a signature. Yes, I've defeated such and such. There are different kinds of argument. They're mentioned in that Prabhupada's purport to the verse, Vada Pravadatamaham, of different kinds of discourse, different kinds of dialogue. I'm Vada. And Vada is explained. It's the kind of discussion in which both parties are trying to get at the truth of the matter. There are other kinds of discussion where I'm trying to defeat you, you're trying to defeat me. We use, whatever rhetorical weapons we can grasp. But the whole point is somehow or other to defeat our opponent, to come out on top. So with that kind of discourse, it will be difficult to have a profitable discussion. But when parties are both sincerely trying to understand the truth by their discussion, then the discussion can be rewarding. In some discourse, and the discourse between the master and the disciple, or senior and junior, it's not that we're both trying to understand. We take it, of course, that's also there, that even the advanced devotee was seeking further understanding. But the principle of the discourse is upadekshanti te gyanam gyaninas sattvadarsham. You know something that I don't know, so I want to hear from you. If we don't take that approach, we won't learn. We walk into the classroom thinking that the teacher's a jerk and I know more than he does. Even though I hear what he has to say, it won't register. It won't benefit me. Even though he may know so much more than I do, I won't be able to get it because I'm too proud. I'm too proud. So then my hearing will not be effective hearing. I may hear the same thing as the student who's listening very carefully and trying to understand. I may listen also, but even I may listen to try to understand also, so I can defeat what you're saying. That won't be the same. With that submissive hearing, we can profit, we can benefit. Hare Krishna.
It's the usual time for kirtan, or even a little after, but we have a number of things in the chat. Should we take them next week, or should we read them all? There's one, two, I guess there's one question and a few comments. few verses.
You're the manager. You decide what to do.
Okay. I say kirtan.
Okay.
Okay. Radesha Prabhu, are you available?
I'm back on the road.
Okay. Panchatattva Prabhu, are you available?
Sure. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jayom Vishnupad Paramahansa, Privrajacharya Astottara Satta Shri Srimad His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jayom Vishnupad Paramahansa, Privrajacharya Astottara Satta Shri Srimad His Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Maharaj Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnav Brinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Brinda Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shyamakund Radhakund Girgavardhan Ki Jai. Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Navadip Mayapur Dham Ki Jai. Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai. Gangamayi Ki Jai. Yamunamayi Ki Jai. Tulasi Devi Ki Jai, Bhakti Devi Ki Jai, Samaveta Bhakta Brinda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. Gaura Premanande.
All glories to Caitanya Charitamrita. All glories to His Holiness Jayādvaita Maharaj.
Jai.
Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. All
Jai.
glories to the assembled devotees.
Vivo.
Gaur
Holiness
Premanande.
Jayādvaita Swami Ki Jai.
Jai.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Guru Maharaj.
Thank you, Panchatattva Prabhu.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Prabhu. Hare Krishna.